Rasheeda and Jasmine on The Breakfast Club. Yes, you heard that right. The two women who, for years, have been at the center of one of reality TV's most infamous love triangles, walked into the studio together. Smiling, laughing, and sitting side by side like long-lost sisters. Fans who tuned in live could barely believe their eyes. For so long, the very mention of Jasmine Washington's name was enough to ignite Rasheeda Frost's fiery temper. And yet here they were, looking like besties, casually sipping coffee, as if years of scandal, betrayal, and heartbreak had never happened. The energy was surreal calm on the surface, but electric underneath. Everyone expected claws to come out, shade to be thrown, or at the very least, some passive-aggressive remarks, but instead, what they got was something no one could have predicted: peace. Still, don't be fooled by the smiles, because you know, with this crew, peace always comes with a catch. What led to this shocking truce? Was it really genuine forgiveness, or just another reality TV setup waiting to explode later? Stick around, because we're about to break down every shocking moment from Rasheeda and Jasmine's Breakfast Club appearance, the laughter, the tears, and the jaw-dropping truth that has fans questioning everything they thought they knew. When Rasheeda and Jasmine walked into the Breakfast Club studio together, fans thought they were seeing a mirage, a glitch in reality that simply couldn't be true. Because the story of these two women has always been built on betrayal, heartbreak, and unhealed wounds, and yet here they were laughing like sisters on national radio. A sight so bizarre that even Charlemagne had to pause mid-introduction and jokingly ask if he was being because the image of Rasheeda Frost, the devoted wife, and Jasmine Washington, the woman once branded as the homewrecker, sitting side by side was the kind of thing nobody could have scripted, and still, it was happening. Fans remember how the scandal first erupted years ago when Jasmine claimed Kirk Frost was the father of her child. A revelation that ripped through Rasheeda's life like a storm. And the fallout was brutal: accusations flying, tempers flaring, a marriage shaken to its core, and a young woman dragged across every reality TV blog as the villain in Rasheeda's fairy tale. For years, Rasheeda and Jasmine couldn't even be in the same building without whispers of chaos. And yet now, here they were, united, smiling, their energy strangely aligned, as if they had called a truce. And it immediately raised the question, why now, why here, and why in front of millions of fans who never stopped debating their story? Rasheeda leaned forward during the opening minutes, her voice steady but with an edge of nerves, saying, "I know people ain't expect this, but sometimes you just gotta let go of the pain if you want peace in your house." And Jasmine nodded, her hands folded neatly, her expression softer than fans had ever seen, as she added, "There's a lot people don't know about what really went down, and today I think it's time we clear the air." That statement alone sent shockwaves through the internet. Because everyone thought the story was over, that the wounds were closed. But here was Jasmine hinting that the truth was bigger, messier, and more complicated than the public ever imagined. And instantly the room was thick with suspense. Charlemagne grinned, leaning back, saying, "Oh, we gonna get into it?" While DJ Envy raised his eyebrows as if even he wasn't sure whether the conversation was about to heal or explode. The tension was palpable, the kind of tightrope energy where one wrong word could flip everything upside down. And fans in the live stream chat typed in all caps, predicting that Rasheeda would lose her cool at any second, because if history has taught us anything, it's that forgiveness doesn't come easy in the Frost family saga. But what shocked everyone was Rasheeda's composure gone. Was the fire-breathing queen who once confronted Kirk on camera in front of the world, and in her place was a woman seemingly at peace with the past, though her eyes betrayed tiny flashes of emotion every time Jasmine spoke. And Jasmine, usually defensive and guarded in interviews, seemed almost humble, her voice quieter, as if carrying the weight of years of judgment, saying at one point, "I was young, I was lost, and I made choices that hurt people, and for that, I can't change the past, but I can say I regret it." The audience gasped. Fans online replayed that clip endlessly because never before had Jasmine spoken so directly about regret. And the sincerity in her voice was undeniable, leaving even Rasheeda momentarily silent, blinking hard as if holding back tears. But the calm didn't last long, because when Charlemagne pushed deeper, asking Rasheeda if she really trusted Jasmine or if this was just for show, the crack in the piece started to show, and Rasheeda's tone sharpened, her southern drawl carrying a bite as she said, "Trust. That don't come easy. I'm sitting here because I chose to be bigger than the mess, but don't get it twisted, me and her ain't braid each other's hair last night." The studio erupted in laughter, but beneath the humor was a sting. A reminder that forgiveness doesn't erase scars. And Jasmine's face flushed as she leaned forward, replying, "And I don't expect her to trust me overnight, but at least she gave me a chance to sit here, and that means more than people think." The push-on-pull between them was mesmerizing, like watching two women wrestle with their history in real time, and fans online were split. Some applauded Rasheeda's grace, while others accused Jasmine of manipulating the narrative once again. And just when things seemed to settle, another twist hit, because Rasheeda revealed that Kirk himself had been the one to suggest the sit-down, a detail that sent the studio into chaos. With Charlemagne shouting, "Wait, Kirk set this up," and Rasheeda nodding firmly, saying, "Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's his child too, and he wanted us to at least stop tearing each other apart for the sake of that boy." Suddenly, the story shifted from two women to a broken family trying to stitch itself back together, and fans couldn't believe Kirk had been pulling strings behind the scenes. Jasmine admitted, "He called me, and at first, I didn't even want to pick up, but he said, 'If you really care about your son's life, you gotta start mending fences with the people connected to him,' and that stuck with me." That revelation had fans spiraling, accusing Kirk of manipulating both women once again, but it also added a layer of vulnerability, showing that maybe this wasn't about drama anymore but about a child caught in the crossfire. Still, no one watching believed the peace would hold, because as Rasheeda recounted the sleepless nights, the public humiliation, and the pain of watching her marriage nearly crumble, her voice broke, her words trembling as she admitted, "You don't ever forget waking up to your name trending because of some mess you didn't ask for. You don't ever forget the way your kids look at you when the world calling their daddy a cheater. That's scars, baby, scars that don't fade." Jasmine bowed her head, whispering, "And I'm sorry. I really am," but Rasheeda shook her head slowly, saying, "Sorry don't fix everything, but it's a start." The studio went silent for a moment, the weight of the years hanging heavy in the air. And fans watching live typed things like, "I'm crying and this is too real," because what was unfolding wasn't just gossip, it was raw humanity. Two women tangled in the same storm trying to breathe in the same space. And just as the tension seemed unbearable, Jasmine suddenly dropped a bombshell, looking Rasheeda directly in the eye and saying, "You don't know half of what really went on. Because Kirk wasn't always honest with you about me." The studio froze, Charlemagne's eyes nearly popping out of his head as he leaned forward. "Wait, what you mean by that?" And Rasheeda's lips tightened, her eyes flashing in a way fans knew meant trouble. Because if Jasmine was about to peel back layers of secrets Kirk had kept, this so-called truce might combust right there on live radio, and the story was only just beginning. The silence after Jasmine's words was deafening, the kind of silence that makes even the microphones feel heavy. Because everyone in that studio and every single fan watching the live stream knew that when someone drops a line, like, "You don't know half of what really went on," it's not just small talk, it's a warning shot. It's a promise that something ugly is about to surface. And Rasheeda's face instantly shifted from calm composure to the fire-eyed woman fans remembered from her most explosive love and hip-hop moments. "What you trying to say?" she snapped, her voice low but cutting, the kind of tone that carried more danger than yelling ever could. Jasmine hesitated, her hands fidgeting in her lap, her eyes darting toward the floor as if wrestling with whether she should pull the trigger on the truth. And Charlemagne, sensing the tension, egged her on with that sly grin, saying, "Nah sis, you can't just say that and not spill it. We need details, don't we?" The audience online exploded with comments like, "Drop the receipts," and Jasmine about to get kicked out the studio. Because everyone knew Rasheeda wasn't going to sit quietly if Jasmine dragged Kirk's secrets into the light. Finally, Jasmine inhaled deeply and said, "Kirk told you I was just some random mistake, but that's not how it started. He was coming to me, not the other way around. He made promises to me, told me things about your marriage that I never should have known." The shockwave from those words could be felt instantly. Charlemagne slapped the desk. DJ Envy muttered under his breath. Angela Yee widened her eyes, and Rasheeda, her entire body stiffened like she'd been hit. "Excuse me?" Rasheeda hissed, leaning forward, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. Jasmine nodded, her voice trembling but steady enough to sound convincing. As she continued, "He painted you like you were the cold one, like you didn't have his back, like he was a man stuck in a house where he wasn't being loved right, and I was dumb enough to believe him." For a split second, the audience didn't breathe. Because this wasn't just Jasmine admitting her role, this was Jasmine reframing the entire narrative. placing Kirk as the instigator instead of the victim of temptation. Fans online lit up, with mixed reactions, some siding with Rasheeda, saying Jasmine was just trying to shift blame, while others wrote things like, "We been knew Kirk was dirty." And this explains so much. Rasheeda's lips pressed into a hard line, her chest rising and falling faster as she processed the revelation, and then she let out a bitter laugh. The kind of laugh that's half disbelief, half fury. "So you want me to sit here and believe you, after all the lies, all the drama, now you want to flip the script and say it was Kirk, feeding you sob stories," she said, her tone sharp, but her eyes betrayed the storm brewing inside. Jasmine raised her palms as if to say she wasn't trying to fight, her voice cracking as she replied, "I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm saying it because I carried this for years, and I'm tired of being the villain when I wasn't the only one at fault. He manipulated me, Rasheeda, just like he lied to you." The words hung in the air like poison, and Charlemagne, never one to miss a moment, leaned forward and asked Rasheeda directly, "So does this change how you look at Kirk?" The question was dynamite, because it forced Rasheeda into the hot seat, and fans knew they were about to see a raw, unfiltered reaction. Rasheeda took a deep breath, shaking her head, her eyes glistening as if she were fighting tears, and she said, "Look, at the end of the day, Kirk been my husband for over 20 years, we done been through hell and back, and I already know he ain't perfect," but hearing it from her mouth, it's like ripping open a wound that I spent years trying to stitch up. The emotion in her voice silenced even the usually loud Breakfast Club hosts, and for a rare moment, there was empathy on Jasmine's face too, as if she understood the depth of pain her words had caused. But then, just as it seemed like the conversation might collapse into tears, Jasmine took things further, her voice shaking as she admitted, "There were nights, he told me, he was leaving you. He had me believing I was going to be his future, not just some secret." That statement was gasoline on the fire, and Rasheeda's composure snapped. Her eyes blazed, and she pointed a sharp finger at Jasmine, her voice rising as she spat, "Girl, don't you ever sit here and tell me my man was promising you anything about leaving me, because I know damn well who I am and what I built, and no little fling could ever take my place." The room erupted into chaos, Charlemagne clapping, envy trying to calm the moment. The producers in the background probably praying the women didn't come to blows on live air, and the internet chat went insane, with comments flooding like, "Rasheeda, about to flip that table, and this is the real drama we came for." Jasmine's eyes welled up, but she didn't back down. Instead, she said quietly but firmly, "I wish I never believed him. I wish I never let myself fall for the lies. But if we're talking truth today, then let's be real about all of it." That quiet intensity cut through the noise, and Rasheeda, though fuming, seemed to recognize the weight of Jasmine's confession. For a long moment, neither spoke, the tension stretching the air so tight that even the hosts didn't know what to say, until Angela Yee softly asked, "So where does that leave y'all now? Is this about healing, or is this about exposing Kirk?" The question reframed everything, pulling the women back from the edge, and Rasheeda leaned back in her chair, exhaling hard as she said, "I didn't come here to tear my family apart on the radio. I came here to show people that women don't have to stay enemies forever. But don't get it twisted, what she said just now, that's gonna sit with me for a long time." Jasmine wiped a tear from her cheek, whispering, "I just want peace. For me, for my son, and even for you. That's all." The vulnerability in her words softened the edges, even if only slightly. And fans watching were divided, some praising the women for addressing the raw truth, others convinced the truce was hanging by a thread. And just as the energy started to shift toward calm again, another twist rocked the room. Charlemagne smirked and asked Jasmine, "So do you think Kirk still got feelings for you?" The question was reckless, provocative, exactly the kind of instigation he was known for, and Jasmine froze, caught between honesty and self-preservation. She bit her lip, glanced at Rasheeda, and then said, "I think a part of him always will." The studio erupted into screams. The internet practically broke with comments. And Rasheeda's face said everything. Her mouth dropped open, her eyes blazed with a fury that no smile could hide, and her voice came out in a low growl, "You just made the biggest mistake saying that." And in that instant, the fragile sisterly vibe shattered, the Breakfast Club studio becoming ground zero for the most explosive confrontation fans had seen in years, and the story was far from over. The moment Jasmine uttered those fateful words, "I think a part of him always will," the entire energy of the room combusted into chaos. Because that single statement cut through Rasheeda like a blade, undoing every ounce of composure she had struggled to maintain since walking into the studio. And the look on her face was a storm of betrayal, fury, and exhaustion all at once. You really just sat here, after everything, and said my husband still got feelings for you. Girl, have you lost your damn mind? Rasheeda snapped, her voice slicing through the air like thunder. Charlemagne leaned forward, his eyes wide, with delight at the spectacle unraveling before him, while DJ Envy and Angela Yee both exchanged nervous glances, as if silently wondering whether security needed to be on standby. Jasmine flinched but didn't retract her words. Instead, she clasped her hands tighter, her voice trembling but still defiant as she responded, I didn't say it to hurt you. I said it because it's the truth. You can't erase history, Rasheeda. You can't erase what we went through, no matter how much you want to. That answer was like gasoline poured on an open flame, and Rasheeda leaned forward so sharply the hosts almost jumped, her finger jabbing the table as she barked, what y'all went through. What you went through. Don't sit here and talk like y'all had some epic love story. You were a chapter he should have never opened, and you better believe I closed it. The audience online went wild, comment after comment pouring in, some cheering Rasheeda's strength, others slamming Jasmine for pushing too far, but all agreeing on one thing. This interview had gone from shocking to legendary in seconds. Jasmine's eyes glistened with tears she refused to let fall, and she whispered almost desperately, it wasn't just a fling, and you know it. If it was just that, he wouldn't have lied to both of us the way he did. He wouldn't have kept me around as long as he did. The tension reached fever pitch, and Rasheeda's entire body trembled with rage as she shot back. Kept you around, honey, he kept you in the shadows, and don't you ever confuse that with love. I was the wife, I was the foundation, and you were the chaos he should have walked away from. Don't rewrite history to make yourself feel better. The room fell, silent again, the weight of Rasheeda's words heavy, almost suffocating. And Charlemagne finally broke the tension with a half-joking, woo, this is better than love and hip-hop, earning a strained laugh from DJ Envy but no amusement from the women across the table. Fans in the live chat were typing furiously, some begging Jasmine to stop before Rasheeda exploded. Others insisting that Rasheeda was finally saying what everyone had been thinking all along. And still more writing things like, Kirk about to get divorced on live radio. And just when it seemed the interview couldn't get any messier, Rasheeda suddenly shifted gears, her voice lowering into something colder, steadier, almost scarier, as she said, you know what the craziest part is? You sitting here talking about him having feelings for you, but you don't even realize you were never the threat. The only threat in my marriage was him. And that's what you never got. The raw honesty in her words stunned the room, leaving Jasmine momentarily speechless, her mouth opening and closing as if trying to form a reply that never came. Angela Yee leaned in gently, almost motherly, asking, so then, Rasheeda, is this about forgiving Jasmine, or is this about forgiving Kirk? And Rasheeda's eyes darted to the side as she exhaled sharply, her voice breaking as she admitted, that's the part I'm still figuring out. Forgiving her is one thing, but forgiving him, that's the war one fight every single day. It was a rare, vulnerable confession, one that stripped away the tough exterior and showed the cracks underneath, and Jasmine's expression softened, her own tears finally falling as she whispered, I never wanted to be part of that war. I thought I was getting love, but I was just getting lies. The honesty between them shifted the atmosphere, pulling it back from explosive rage to something raw, broken, almost tragic. And fans online flooded the comments with crying emojis, writing things like this is heartbreaking and they, both victims in different ways. For a fleeting moment, it seemed like the two women might actually find common ground in their shared pain. But then Charlemagne, ever the instigator, leaned in and asked the question everyone was secretly thinking, so if Kirk walked in this studio right now, what would y'all say to him? The question froze the air once again, both women staring at each other before glancing at the door, as if half expecting him to actually show up. And Rasheeda smirked bitterly, saying, what I'd say? I'd tell him, look at the mess you made, and look at the women who had to clean it up while you hid. Jasmine nodded vigorously, adding, and I'd tell him, you broke both of us in different ways, and you don't even realize the damage you left behind. The studio buzzed with electricity, the fans in the chat screaming things like bring Kirk out and he gotta face this, when suddenly DJ Envy, with a mischievous grin, said, well, ladies, funny you should say that. And, in that instant, the studio door creaked open, and the man himself, Kirk Frost, walked in. His face caught between a nervous smile and a deer-in-the-light stare. The gasps in the studio were loud enough to be heard on the mics. The live chat erupted into chaos. And Rasheeda's jaw dropped as she turned to face the husband who had set this whole sit-down into motion. Jasmine froze, her entire body stiffening, her eyes widening with a mixture of shock and dread. Because whatever fragile truce had existed between the two women was now about to be tested in real time. With the very man at the center of all their pain standing just feet away, and the interview took a turn no one could have seen coming. The second Kirk Frost stepped into that studio, it felt like the air itself shifted. A tidal wave of tension crashing into the room because the man who had sparked years of betrayal, heartbreak, and scandal was now standing face to face with the two women whose lives he had entangled, and for the first time in public. There would be no edits, no producers shaping the narrative, just raw truth, spilling live for the world to see. The crowd behind the glass erupted in whispers, the live chat exploded with "No way, this is wild, and we need popcorn." While Charlemagne sat back in his chair with the kind of grin that said he knew this was about to be the moment that would go down in Breakfast Club history. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line as she stared at her husband, her voice dripping with venom as she hissed, "So this was your big plan? Throw me and her in a room, let us rip each other apart, then you waltz in, like the peacemaker?" Kirk raised his palms defensively, his voice calm but trembling under the weight of the situation as he replied, Nah, it wasn't like that. I just thought it was time to stop hiding, to put it all out there and try to move forward." Jasmine shook her head, her voice sharp with disbelief as she snapped, "Move forward? Kirk, you left me carrying all the shame while you played family man on TV. You let me drown in hate and judgment, and you stayed quiet." The intensity was suffocating. Fans typing furiously online, things like "call him out," and he looked shook. While Rasheeda leaned forward, her tone steady but laced with years of suppressed fury. "You know what's crazy? You let me fight battles I didn't even start. You sat in my house, looked me in my face, and let me think I was the only one losing sleep while you were out here feeding her dreams and feeding me lies." Kirk's face fell, his voice softer now, almost pleading, as he said, "I ain't proud of it. I messed up, more than once, and I hurt both of y'all, in ways I can't take back. But I'm here now because I don't want my son growing up seeing his mama and his stepmama tearing each other down because of my mistakes." The mention of his son shifted the room's energy again. Jasmine's eyes softening as she whispered, "That boy deserves better than the circus you created," while Rasheeda blinked back tears, muttering, "Our kids deserved better too." For a brief moment, it felt like the walls were closing in on Kirk. Both women confronting him not as rivals but as two wounded souls demanding accountability. And fans online began to rally behind the unexpected image of Jasmine and Rasheeda, standing almost united against him. Charlemagne, of course, couldn't resist stirring the pot further, leaning forward and asking, "So Kirk, let's cut the fluff, did you, or did you not tell Jasmine you were leaving Rasheeda for her?" The room froze, Rasheeda's eyes snapping toward her husband like daggers, Jasmine holding her breath, and the world waiting for his answer. Kirk shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tightening, his hands fidgeting on the desk. And finally he muttered, "I said things I shouldn't have said, in moments I shouldn't have had. I was weak, I was selfish, and I made promises I never planned on keeping." The confession landed like a bomb. Rasheeda gasping audibly, Jasmine covering her face with her hands, the host staring wide-eyed, and fans flooding the chat with "he admitted IT and divorce papers incoming." Rasheeda's voice shook with rage as she pointed at him, her words trembling but powerful. "Do you understand what you just said? You played me and her like fools. You dangled lies like they were gifts. And you destroyed everything sacred about the word marriage." Jasmine's voice cracked, her tears finally spilling as she whispered, "And you destroyed me too. Kirk, you knew I believed you. You knew I thought I was building something real. And you let me carry that while you went home to her." For the first time, Kirk's bravado cracked, his own voice breaking as he replied, "I was scared, man. I was scared of losing everything, scared of facing the truth, so I lied. I lied to both of y'all, and I hate myself for it." The vulnerability in his voice was raw, unexpected, and for a second, the anger in the room softened. Because it excused his actions, but because it exposed him, not as the manipulator fans had always painted him to be, but as a deeply flawed man finally forced to face the wreckage of his choices. Rasheeda wiped at her eyes, shaking her head, muttering, Scared. You weren't scared when you were sneaking around. You weren't scared when you were making babies behind my back. You only scared now 'cause the truth finally louder than your lies. The audience in the studio gasped. The chat went wild with "Preach, Rasheeda," and "He done." While Jasmine reached over, her hand trembling as she placed it gently on Rasheeda's arm, whispering, "He broke us both, but we don't have to let him keep winning." That moment Jasmine touching Rasheeda, not as a rival but as a woman who understood her pain, sent shockwaves through the fandom. Because in that instant, the two women who had once been enemies seemed to finally unite, their strengths no longer defined by their connection to Kirk, but by their shared resilience in surviving him. The room grew still, the weight of the year settling in, and Kirk hung his head, his voice barely audible as he said, "I don't deserve either of you. I just hope maybe one day my kids can look at me and see I tried to make it right." Rasheeda's jaw tightened, her voice steady but final as she declared, "You don't get to decide when it's right, we do." And with that, the balance of power shifted. This wasn't Kirk's story anymore. It wasn't about his lies or his excuses. It was about two women reclaiming their voices, their narratives, and their strength. The interview wound, down with Rasheeda and Jasmine sitting shoulder to shoulder, still raw, still wounded, but strangely aligned, while Kirk sat a few feet away, a broken man watching the consequences of his actions unfold in real time. Fans flooded social media with reactions, memes, and endless debates. Some calling the truce between Rasheeda and Jasmine iconic, others predicting it wouldn't last. But all agreeing on one thing: this Breakfast Club interview had rewritten the saga forever. And as the cameras cut off, as the microphones were silenced, one thing lingered in the air: this wasn't the end of the story. Just the beginning of a new chapter no one saw coming. As the days moved forward, whispers surrounding Rasheeda and Jasmine only grew louder, spreading like wildfire both online and in private conversations among their circles. Every time one of them posted something subtle, whether it was a vague lyric, a cryptic caption, or even just a moody selfie, fans dissected it endlessly. But the real chaos erupted when an anonymous page leaked alleged voice notes that sounded uncannily like Kirk and Jasmine. In the recordings, the male voice was heard speaking in a tone that resembled Kirk's, complaining about Rasheeda always acting like she better than me, while the female voice, eerily similar to Jasmine's, reassured him that he didn't need to explain himself because she understood what he wanted, although the authenticity of these voice notes was never confirmed. The timing of their release made them seem believable, and the public latched onto them without hesitation. Rasheeda, who had remained relatively composed, finally posted a statement of her own: "When people can't handle your growth, they try to pull you back into their storms. I'm at peace with who I am. Lies don't shake me." That statement only added fuel, because people debated whether she was directly addressing Jasmine, Kirk, or the fanbase itself. Meanwhile, Jasmine fanned the flames even more when she went live on Instagram late at night, sipping wine, laughing, and hinting that truth always finds its way out, no matter how much money people spend to bury it. The comments were flooded instantly, half of them calling her bold for standing up, and the other half dragging her for disrespecting a woman who had built her empire through struggle. The feud had moved past just scandal. It had become symbolic of loyalty versus betrayal, success versus envy, and silence versus confrontation. Every new post, rumor, or interview clip was treated as evidence in an ongoing public trial, and fans were split into opposing teams, each defending their chosen side with passion. What no one realized, though, was that behind the scenes, the real tension was not just about love and betrayal. It was about power, reputation, and survival in an industry that thrives on chaos. This wasn't just a messy love triangle anymore. It had transformed into a full-scale narrative that blurred the lines between reality TV drama and real-life heartbreak. If you've made it this far, it means you felt every twist, every revelation, and every emotion that unfolded in this story of tangled hearts and fiery confrontations. But the drama doesn't stop here, it's only getting deeper. The battles between love, loyalty, and betrayal are far from over, and the secrets that are still buried will shake everything you thought you knew. This is just the beginning, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. So, if you want to stay ahead of the game, hit that subscribe button right now and join the family that's always the first to know the truth behind the headlines. Turn on the notification bell, because the next update is going to be even more explosive, and you'll want to be the first to catch it when it drops. And don't just watch, be part of the conversation. Drop your thoughts, your predictions, and your reactions in the comments below. Whose side are you on? Who do you think is playing the biggest game? Your voice matters here, and I'll be watching for your takes. Finally, if this story pulled you in, share this video with your friends so they can dive into the madness too. The more voices in the conversation, the wilder it gets. Because remember, in this world of secrets, betrayals, and hidden truths, the next twist could change everything. Stay tuned.